The United States government has once again introduced significant changes to its travel policies. On June 4, 2025, President Donald Trump signed a new proclamation. This proclamation establishes a travel ban affecting citizens from a specific list of countries. It also imposes less severe, but still heightened restrictions on several other nations. This move signals a return to a key policy theme from President Trump's previous term in office. The new rules are set to come into force very soon, specifically at 12:01 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Monday, June 9, 2025. This gives affected individuals and governments only a short window to understand and react to the implications. The list of countries facing a full travel ban under this new proclamation includes 12 nations. These countries are Afghanistan, Chad, the Republic of Congo, and Equatorial Guinea. Also on this list are Eritrea, Haiti, and Iran. The remaining countries subject to the full ban are Libya, Myanmar, also known as Burma, Somalia, Sudan, and Yemen. For citizens of these 12 nations, most forms of entry into the United States will be suspended. This is a significant development that will impact many individuals hoping to travel to the US for various reasons, from tourism to family visits or work opportunities. In addition to the full ban, 7 other countries will face partial or heightened restrictions. These nations are Burundi, Cuba, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, Turkmenistan, and Venezuela. The exact nature of these partial or heightened restrictions can vary. They might involve more intense screening processes for visa applicants. It could also mean limitations on certain types of visas. The administration has indicated that these countries are deemed to pose a high level of risk, necessitating these additional measures. Understanding the specific new hurdles for these 7 countries will be crucial for their citizens. It is important to note some key exemptions within this new policy framework. The ban explicitly states that it does not target individuals who already hold valid US visas. Similarly, existing green card holders, who are lawful permanent residents of the United States, are not affected by these new restrictions. The proclamation also includes provisions for certain carve-outs. These exemptions might apply to specific visa categories or to individuals whose entry is determined to serve the significant interests of the United States. These nuances mean that while the ban is broad, it is not absolute for everyone from the targeted nations. The Trump administration has outlined several reasons for implementing this new travel ban. A primary justification cited is national security concerns. The government states that these measures are necessary to protect the United States from potential threats. Another significant factor mentioned for 15 of the 19 affected countries is high rates of visa overstays. This refers to individuals who enter the US legally on a temporary visa, but then remain in the country after their authorized period of stay has expired. The administration views this as a serious issue that undermines immigration law and potentially poses security risks if individuals cannot be properly tracked. Beyond general security and overstays, more specific issues were highlighted for different countries. For some, the US government pointed to a lack of cooperation on sharing identity information or details about potential threats. In other cases, the presence of active terrorist groups, or so-called terrorist safe havens within a country's borders, was a stated reason for inclusion. The inability of a foreign government to adequately verify the identities of its own citizens applying for US travel, or deficient screening and vetting processes in the home country, were also listed as concerns. Furthermore, the refusal of some nations to accept the repatriation of their citizens whom the US seeks to deport played a role in the decision-making process. For example, Chad was specifically called out for having one of the highest rates of visa overstays in fiscal year 2023, a situation the White House described as unacceptable, despite relatively small numbers of travelers. In the case of Afghanistan, the US does not formally recognize the Taliban government that took control in 2021, citing a lack of competent authority. Myanmar was included due to its failure to cooperate with the US on the return of its nationals. These specific examples illustrate the varied rationales applied to different countries on the list, painting a complex picture of the administration's criteria for the ban. The administration has also indicated that the list of countries subject to these travel restrictions is not necessarily final. Officials have stated that new countries could be added to the ban or have restrictions imposed if threats emerge in the future. This suggests an ongoing assessment process where the US government will continue to monitor countries worldwide based on its criteria. The ban itself was reportedly expedited following a recent Molotov cocktail attack in Boulder, Colorado, allegedly committed by an Egyptian national. However, Egypt, a key US partner, was notably not included in the ban, highlighting the complex geopolitical considerations at play. The impact of this travel ban on the number of people eligible to receive US visas will vary greatly from one country to another. For many of the African nations on the list, the number of non-immigrant or immigrant visas issued annually is relatively small, often only a few hundred or perhaps a couple of thousand. This means that while the ban is significant for those individuals directly affected, the overall volume of travelers from these specific countries was not enormous to begin with. However, for each person denied entry, the consequences can be profound, disrupting lives and separating families across continents. In contrast, a country like Venezuela will see a much larger number of people affected. In 2023 alone, over 55,000 people from Venezuela received non-immigrant visas to enter the United States. Over the preceding decade, nearly 800,000 such visas were granted to Venezuelans. For them, the new heightened restrictions will create significant new obstacles. This comes at a time when many Venezuelans are seeking opportunities or refuge abroad due to the ongoing political and economic crisis in their home country. The ban adds another layer of difficulty for those hoping to find stability or connect with family in the US. The situations in many of the banned countries are already dire, compounding the distress caused by the travel restrictions. Haiti, for instance, is experiencing widespread violent unrest, with criminal gangs controlling a large portion of its capital, Port-au-Prince, and over 1 million Haitians internally displaced. Somalia is identified as a terrorist safe haven, with its government lacking full territorial control and ongoing US airstrikes against ISIS-affiliated targets. Myanmar is ruled by a military junta engaged in a brutal civil war, and Sudan is also mired in a devastating civil conflict where the US has accused the government of using chemical weapons. For people in these nations, the ban closes a potential avenue for safety or respite. This travel ban will undoubtedly change lives. Families may be kept apart, unable to reunite for important life events or provide support to one another. Students who dreamed of pursuing education in American universities may see their aspirations dashed. Workers who had opportunities for employment or collaboration in the US might find those doors closed. The ban can create a great deal of worry and uncertainty for anyone from the affected countries who had plans involving travel to the United States, whether for short-term visits or longer-term stays for study or work. The human cost is a central part of this unfolding story. The announcement of the new travel ban has quickly drawn reactions from various international bodies and governments. The African Union Commission, for example, expressed its deep concern. They highlighted the potential negative impact on people-to-people ties between African nations and the United States. The Commission also worried about the effects on educational exchange programs, commercial engagement, and ongoing diplomatic relations. They appealed to the US government to adopt a more balanced and evidence-based approach to its security concerns, rather than implementing such sweeping measures that affect entire populations from the listed countries. Humanitarian organizations and advocacy groups have also voiced strong opposition to the ban. Groups like Oxfam have warned that these travel restrictions will inevitably harm families, particularly those fleeing war, persecution, or extreme hardship in their home countries. They argue that such bans can prevent vulnerable people from seeking asylum or finding safety. The concern is that these measures disproportionately affect those who are already in desperate situations, making it even harder for them to escape violence or instability. These organizations often emphasize the moral and legal obligations to protect refugees and asylum seekers, which they feel are undermined by broad travel bans. Specific countries targeted by the ban have also responded. The government of Venezuela, for instance, criticized the imposition of heightened restrictions on its citizens. They warned of the potential risks and hardships this would create for Venezuelans currently in the United States, or those planning to travel. On the other hand, some affected nations, like Somalia, have expressed a willingness to work with the US government. Somali officials indicated they are open to dialogue to address the concerns that led to their inclusion in the ban, hoping to find a resolution that might lead to a lifting of the restrictions in the future. This 2025 travel ban is not an entirely new phenomenon. It revives a defining policy effort from President Trump's first administration. A previous ban in 2017, which targeted 7 predominantly Muslim countries, faced numerous legal challenges and was eventually repealed by President Biden in 2021. The current ban is notably broader in scope, affecting more countries and citing a wider range of justifications. It is based on a January 20, 2025, executive order calling for intensified vetting procedures. The debate around this policy is ongoing, filled with concerns about security, human rights, and the international image of the United States, leaving many to feel worried and upset about the future.